Here's an AMI This Week shortcut with Shelby Travers.
For people with disabilities, this year's Canadian Council of the Blind Person of the Year is an incredible champion.
For her work with accessibility, Carla Qualtrough is this year's Canadian Council of the Blind Person of the Year award winner.
The award, featuring the Honourable Carla Qualtrough on the front page of White Cane magazine, was accepted by Parliamentary Secretary for Public Services and Procurement and Accessibility, Kate Young, at a gala dinner marking the 75th anniversary for the Canadian Council of the Blind. Louise Gillis, the CCB's national president, says the Minister of Public Services and Procurement and Accessibility was the perfect choice for the award.
To see what she has done in her life, through her para-sports that she was in as well, but also in her career, and now to be a minister and to be the Minister of Disabilities, and not for only vision loss, but for all disabilities. And I think that's a person that shows that there is certainly life after vision loss.
For Minister Qualtrough, the award was validation of the work she has done and continues to do for her community.
For me, having a visual impairment, being legally blind, there's nothing more rewarding than having your people, if you will, really acknowledge the work you're doing and the hard work you're putting into making Canada more accessible.
Organizations like the CCB have been giving voices to communities who have historically not had a voice in public policy and lawmaking. For 75 years, they have also been creating role models.
Give me someone to look up to and someone whose behavior I could model was really, really important. Because when you are the only visually impaired or blind person at your school or in your community, it's isolating. And when you have these organizations that reflect who you are, it's really empowering.
Empowering people means having them involved in the decision-making process. It was therefore necessary for the federal government to reach out to these organizations when creating the new Accessible Canada Act.
I can't tell you how important it is to have the voice of CCB, to have the voice of disability-specific organizations at the table. For me, it was a deal breaker. I would not proceed with having an Accessible Canada Act, or what we then called Canadians with Disabilities Act, without talking to the people whose lives would be most impacted by this law.
The Act, or Bill C-81, was tabled in Parliament last June and is now going through the Senate. It fulfills a campaign promise by the Liberals to introduce sweeping accessibility legislation at the federal level. Minister Qualtrough is excited by the new legislation.
Oh, I think we've got some big hopes. I think that, the idea being that we're going to create a system that's going to help, if not avoid, but certainly reduce discrimination against people with disabilities by removing the barriers to inclusion in the first place.
Sport played a big role in Minister Qualtrough's life and as a member of the Canadian Paralympic Hall of Fame. She says we can learn from Paralympic sport when developing systems for accessibility.
What if we approach transportation or education the way that sport is approached through Paralympics, where we level the playing field from the beginning so everybody can play and their ability can kind of just shine through, not just accommodating somebody after the fact, but really designing and thinking systemically about how to include everyone from the start.
For many, Minister Qualtrough is known simply as Carla, and that speaks to her relatability as a minister within our community. She has used her personal experience of vision loss to create change within the country as a whole. For myself, I personally commend her for using that adversity and creating change.